You know, when we think about the great achievements that built our world, our minds usually jump to the really big, dramatic stuff. But what if one of the most important inventions in all of human history wasn't some grand monument or famous discovery, but something much smaller, quieter, and surprisingly heavy? Let's dig into that.
Okay, so let me ask you something. What do you think was the single greatest invention of early civilization? Just take a second. What's the first thing that pops into your head?
I'm guessing it's probably one of these, right? Writing, of course. The wheel, maybe even the idea of cities or laws. And look, these are all incredible, world-changing achievements. No doubt about it. They're the blockbusters of history, for sure.
But the invention we're talking about today is different. It's kind of the unsung hero that made so many of those other big things possible. We're talking about the simple but totally revolutionary idea of standard weights, which were first developed in ancient Sumer. To really get why this was such a big deal, you have to try and imagine a world without it. I mean, just picture trying to trade, to buy or sell anything with no shared system of measurement. It would be total chaos, a world of nothing but guesswork and arguments.
And see, this gets right to the heart of the problem. Before standard weights, trade was completely subjective. What I think is a fair amount of grain might look totally unfair to you. That kind of thing creates constant distrust, and it naturally keeps any economy from getting very big. But once you introduce measurement, well, trade becomes objective, trustworthy, and suddenly you can scale it up big enough to build an entire city on.
So, who fixed this mess? The solution came from the Sumerians, who lived in Mesopotamia, what's now modern-day Iraq, over 5,000 years ago. They were just brilliant innovators, and their answer to this huge problem of trade was both elegant and incredibly powerful: the shekel and the mina.
So, what even is a shekel? It's not just a lump of metal or a fancy rock. A shekel is a concept. It's an agreement. It's this powerful idea that everyone, from a farmer to a priest to a king, can have a single common reference for what something is actually worth. It's like creating a shared language of value. And it was very, very real. A shekel back then weighed about 8.36 grams. To put that in perspective, that's less than the weight of 2 US nickels. It seems tiny, right? But for precious goods like silver, that level of precision was an absolute game changer. It turned this abstract idea of value into something you could literally hold in your hand and measure. So, from this tiny base unit, they built a whole system. 60 of these shekels made up one mina. Now, you might be asking, why 60? Why not 10 or 100 like we use? Well, the answer shows just how smart their mathematics really was. They used what's called a sexagesimal, or base 60 system. And this is just brilliant for trade because the number 60 can be divided so neatly by a whole bunch of smaller numbers. You need to split a payment 3 ways? Easy. Calculate a quarter of a mina? No problem at all. It just made the math of doing business incredibly practical.
Right, so a tiny, standardized stone weight. It seems simple enough, but the ripple effect it created was absolutely enormous. Let's trace how this one little idea helped build the very structures of civilization as we know it.
It all starts right here, with trust. As soon as 2 people can put goods on a scale and agree on the measurement, you've replaced argument with certainty. You're literally building a foundation of mutual confidence. And what does all that trust get you? It allows economic relationships to grow way beyond your immediate neighbors. All of a sudden, long-distance trade becomes reliable. You can create contracts, manage big supply chains, and build markets that connect not just people, but entire cities. And that brings us to the final piece of the puzzle. A complex, reliable economy is the foundation you need to support huge populations, to build massive temples, and to fund organized governments. That little stone weight literally becomes the bedrock for the big city. See, the crucial thing to get is that this wasn't just for merchants haggling in a market. It was a fundamental tool of administration. Think about it. How do you tax people fairly? How do you pay your workers a consistent wage? How do you keep the books for a massive palace? You need standard units. And in fact, it gave people a really powerful reason to start writing things down in the first place, to record all these transactions. This system was so powerful, it basically allowed key commodities to act like money, way before coins were even a thing. Silver, measured out in shekels, became the universal language for calculating value. Prices, rents, even legal fines were set in silver. And grain, also measured reliably, was the practical currency of everyday life. I just love this quote because it gets right to the heart of it all. A
A shekel isn't something you just find lying around in nature. It's an idea that a whole bunch of people agreed to believe in. The Sumerians weren't just building with bricks and mortar, they were building their society with shared concepts. They were turning human agreement into economic reality.
Now, I know this all might seem like really ancient history, but here's the most amazing part of the story. This Sumerian innovation is still with us. It's hiding in plain sight, and you almost certainly use it every single day.
So think about it for a sec. Where do you think this ancient base 60 system has survived? What part of our modern lives is still carved up into 60s?
That's right. Every single time you look at a clock, you're seeing the ghost of Mesopotamian mathematics. The fact that a minute is divided into 60 seconds is a direct cultural inheritance from the Sumerians.
And of course, the same exact thing goes for the 60 minutes in an hour. This ancient way of thinking, which they developed for trade and accounting, has ended up shaping how all of humanity measures the passing of time itself. It's a truly incredible legacy.
But we have to be real here, it wasn't just about making things fair. A standard is also a tool of control. By defining what the official weights were, rulers could regulate markets, enforce contracts, and, of course, collect taxes with much greater efficiency. It organized society for sure, but it also empowered the state.
Ultimately, though, this is the big takeaway. Those small Sumerian weight stones taught humanity a monumental lesson that abstract ideas like fairness and trust could be tied to physical, measurable standards. And that single idea laid the foundation for the complex economic world we all live in today.
So, it leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to chew on. The shekel was an invisible system that organized an entire civilization. So what are the standard weights of our own time? What other, quiet, invisible systems are shaping our world right now, maybe without us even noticing?